Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mystery Theory podcast. Today, we're going to be a little bit late on this podcast, but I wanted to share with you a case that it's part of the series. It happened on Halloween that I've been sharing on my True Crime ASMR channel. If you missed the series, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go look up the Mystery Theory ASMR on YouTube and you'll find a lot more cases that are not only scary because they happen in a time where it should be fun, where, a lot of people are having parties and dress up and that kind of thing, but it also involves some dark things that happened around that time, and that it's, as I mentioned on my channel, scarier than any scary movie or horror movie that I watched. However, today we're going to talk about a different case in the same theme. This is the Martha Moxley case, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of you remember her name. I will tell you her story, what happened, but in the end, there's a little bit of a controversy of, was the guy accused of doing this innocent or guilty? Or did he have or still has enough money to buy his own freedom? Something I will explore a little bit more in the end. I think that people that have the means to pay the best lawyers can get away with a lot of things because of technicalities. But let me explain a little bit of this particular case. Now, Martha Moxley was born on August 30th, 1960 in Piedmont, California, and she was the youngest of two. Now, when she was in her teenage years, they ended up moving to Bellhaven, which is an affluent neighborhood in Greenwich, Connecticut. I mean, this was the kind of neighborhood that a lot of parents would consider a safe place to raise a family. It was an affluent neighborhood. Most people had some kind of recognizable last name. They were, the owners of this or that, or the cousin of this politician, or there was some kind of tie to people in power if they were not in power themselves. And according to Martha's mom, she considered this a safe place for her family. Now, Martha was a good daughter. She had the best personality. Actually, she was voted best personality in her middle school. I'm not sure if she did middle school in California or she started high school in this new place. I'm not sure exactly the dates. I didn't write them down. But all I can say is that she was loved in school. She had a lot of good friends. She was a basketball player, a straight A student. I mean, what else can you ask for in a young girl like her? Now let's talk about the neighborhood, right? Because you and I know that when you move to an entire new neighborhood, you probably love the house. You probably think that it's a nice place or a nice neighborhood. But once you start to live in the neighborhood and you start to talk to people that live in the area, you start getting liking to some and some other people that you stay away from. In this case, the Moxleys were friendly with most of their neighbors. And there was this particular family that lived 150 yards away from them. Now, The family got involved with this other family, and it was mostly because of a friendship of teenagers. Michael and Thomas Skakel were two of the 7 children of Rushton and Anne Skakel. Their dad's sister, so their aunt, was Ethel Skakel, who was married to President John F. Kennedy's brother, Robert F. Kennedy. Yeah, a little bit confusing. So, Robert F. Kennedy had President Kennedy had a brother. His name is Robert F. Kennedy, and he was married to Ethel, who had these nephews. Okay, so Michael and Thomas was two of the 7 children that her brother had. In the year 1975, Thomas was 17 and Michael was 15 years old. And overall, they were struggling as a family. I mean, it was dysfunctional. They had, well, some of the things that came into play in this family was chronic illness, alcoholism, and some repressive Catholic morals and sexual outlooks. Also, their mom died of brain cancer in 1973, and their dad alcoholism got worse. So they were left alone a lot, and they were unsupervised and with unlimited funds to spend in whatever they wanted, including alcohol, drugs, you name it. They had enough money that they could buy stuff to get in trouble. Now, Martha knew the boys, and she even mentions them in her diary briefly, and this was on sometime on September or in September of 1975. One day she was talking about having mixed feeling about some advances that she got from Tom, and then another entry talking about how frustrated she was with Michael. Apparently there's a logging truck coming this way. Okay, let's keep going. Now, the night before Halloween was known as a Mischief Night. I think we all know that. It is pretty much everywhere, but especially one of the nights that the local Greenwich teens would look forward to. They would roam the streets, pulling pranks, and having a good old time. Nothing serious though. I mean, a toilet paper lawn was the worst that the neighbors in the area experienced. But on Mischief Night of 1975, things were different. Martha decided to go out with her friends and told her mom that she'd be late. I'm not sure if they arranged a time, but by 4 a.m., her mom was so worried that she decided to start calling her friends. And this is not the year 2020, where everyone has a cell phone, so she would have to call her friends' homes to try to figure out where she was. Now, it was really early in the morning, but she felt like she needed to know where her daughter was, and one of the friends tells Martha's mom that the last time that she saw Martha, she was with Tom, her neighbor. So Martha's mom went to the home of the Skakel family home, and Michael opened the door. He said, "I haven't seen her, really." Martha's mom left, disappointed and honestly just eager to find her daughter, so she continued to look in the neighborhood. That same day, shortly after noon, Martha's mom and one of Martha's friend were walking around when they spotted Martha face down under a large pine tree. and it was at the edge of their own property. She had her clothing was all stained with blood. Her jeans and underwear were pulled down to her ankles, and later on they learned that there was no sexual attack, but it seemed like that in the beginning. They found a 6-iron golf club near her. Later on, they learned that she was struck repeatedly to the point that the golf club broke in 3 different pieces, and that she was also stabbed in the neck with one of those pieces. They found the matching golf clubs at the Skakel's home. So it really was not a mystery where the murder weapon came from. When they checked the Skakel's home, they found a set that was missing pieces. And when they tried to match it, it immediately did to what they found around Martha that day. So it was pretty obvious from the get-go that whoever did it had access to the Skakel's home. And not only that, but the name Anne Skakel was engraved on the handle. So it was pretty obvious. I mean, there was no way that somebody could say, no, that's not ours. Now, according to witnesses, Tom was the last one to see her alive. I mean, it looked terrible for them. But when the police interviewed Tom, he said that he talked to Martha at around 9:30 p.m. and then that he went back home to watch a movie. He even mentions the movie, it's called The French Connection, and that he actually watched the movie with his family's tutor, Kenneth Littleton. Then he said that when the movie was done, he went to his room to work on a school report on Abraham Lincoln. But when the police asked the teachers about this assignment, it was denied. No teacher gave him that assignment. Weird, I know. But Tom did pass the lie detector. Now, the police moved on to the tutor, Kenneth Littleton. He said that that was his first day at work. He said, I have no idea who Martha is. I've never met her. And again, this is my first day of work. So he failed the lie detector, but he was never considered a suspect. The police established that Martha was killed around 10 p.m. Michael said he left his home at around 9:15, drove to his cousin's house, and returned home at around 11 p.m. The case, after that, went cold for 2 decades. Are you asking yourself how? Me too. I mean, if today, 2020, there is a body that is found with something that says my name on it, and I live by wherever they found this body, you betcha that I will be the number one suspect and that they will find everything to put it on me. You know that, right? I think it would be the same way for you. So how, having all this amount of physical evidence, how come that they couldn't put up some kind of theory or some kind of case together? Well, in the year 1991, so again, 2 decades later, her case was reopened. And there was this rumor going around that another Kennedy family member, William Smith Kennedy, may have been involved in the murder, which was not true. But because of this, the case went back into the spotlight. Now, at this point, Michael Skakel became a prime suspect. See, Rushton Skakel decided to help his son. he decided that the best thing to do is to prove his son innocent. So he hired this private investigator to clear his name, or his family name, and to try to blame it on Kenneth Littleton, who believed he thought that maybe Kenneth Littleton was the one who did it. Let's say it that way. Was he trying to frame him to free his son from all this accusation? I'm not sure. But according to my research, he had suspicions on this guy. However, his plan backfired big time. They had two different PIs. Well, it was the PI, which was Jim Murphy, which was an ex-FBI agent, and Willis Krebs, I think it's his name, is a former NYPD lieutenant who was his assistant. So both of them interviewed the boys, right? They had to go over what they did that night, and they had to find the facts to make sure that they were not being accused of something that really never happened. But it turned out that the boys lied to the police. Tom said that he last saw Martha at 9:30, but then he told the PI that it wasn't 9:30, it was at 10 p.m. He also said that he and Martha engaged in mutual self-satisfaction, I'm gonna say it that way, outside the home, and that he then began crying while he was telling this to the PI and his assistant. Now, they are not stupid. So, even though the PI was supposedly there to help the family, the boys had their lawyer there. And the lawyer was like, "Shut up, you're not speaking anymore." So then Michael kept going and said that after 11 p.m., when he came back from his cousin's house, he instead of going to bed, he actually climbed the tree outside Martha's bedroom and helped himself. Let's put it that way. A journalist, Dominic Doon, got a hold of the investigator's report, okay? So this was, I don't know if the PI actually decided to share this information, leak it to this journalist because he thought that it was something that somebody needed to know about and look into it without him breaking his whatever kind of contract he had with the Skakels. So this journalist got that report, and passed it to the state inspector, Frank Garr. Now, Frank Garr knew from the beginning that Michael did it. Well, he didn't know, but he had a feeling, and everything pointed to his direction. So it wasn't a surprise when he got this report that kind of confirmed what he was thinking all along. So in 1998, a one-man grand jury and an investigator were assigned to review the case of Martha Moxley. After examining the evidence, Judge George N., I think that's his last name, ruled that they had enough to charge Michael Skakel with her murder. After that, several former schoolmates of Skakel actually testified that while they were attending Elan School, which is a school for troubled youth, Skakel confessed to them to doing that. One in particular, one of those friends, Gregory Coleman, testified on the pre-trial hearing in June of the year 2000 that Skakel told him that, quote, "I'm going to get away with murder because I'm a Kennedy." Cute, right? He even said that he told him that he was making advances to this girl and that she was not into him, so he drove her skull in. Now, the same witness had to come back in the year 2002 to testify. However, he died in August of 2001 of a heroin overdose. And so he didn't. He couldn't. But then the autobiography comes in handy to the police, okay? In 1997, Skakel made recordings with a ghost writer, Richard Hoffman, for this autobiography called Dead Man Talking. A Kennedy cousin comes clean. That was the title. Like in the part where he said that he was drunk, high, and sexually aroused that night, that was the part that he never mentioned before. However, it was part of this. And before it was written and published, they had these recordings of Michael saying these things. So in one of the recordings, he said that Dorothy Moxley, which is Martha's mom, when she came to ask about her daughter that morning, he said that he panicked, that he started thinking, did she see me last night? Why is she suspecting something? But he said that he was still drunk and he was still high. I mean, isn't that a thought that maybe he did something and that he got scared that her mom was actually present while he was doing it? But he meant, according to his lawyer, himself masturbating himself in the tree. Let's just call it for what it is. But the prosecution used it to say that he was afraid of being seen hitting Martha with a murder weapon. The defense claimed that there was no physical evidence and that he had an alibi for the time frame in which Martha was murdered. While the prosecution painted a picture of a jealous teen infuriated after being rejected by his crush under the influence of alcohol and drugs, and with access to the murder weapon. Which all makes sense. I mean, he said it himself, that he was mad because he was rejected. He said himself he was on drugs and alcohol, and that it's obvious that he had access to the murder weapon. So, on June 7th, 2002, the jury came back with a guilty verdict and he was sentenced to 20 years to life in prison. So, where is the injustice? How is he going to get away with it because he has money? Well, here is where it comes. His lawyers and supporters kept fighting to get conviction overturned. 4 appeals were filed and denied. Then, on October 23rd, 2013, Michael Skakel was granted a new trial on the basis that his defense attorney, Mikey Sherman, provided him with constitutionally deficient representation. If that's not the most weird and interesting reason for questioning the whole trial, I don't know where it is. That's the kind of thing that a good lawyer will fight for you. Maybe they won't prove that you're innocent, but they will find a loophole. Because he was actually released on a $1.2 million bail on November 21st, 2013. Prosecutors fought to get this conviction reinstated and succeeded in December of 2016 when it was ruled that his representation was in fact valid. So that loophole didn't stay for a long time. However, in May of 2018, the court reversed its ruling, concluding that Skakel's lawyer failed, in fact, to provide evidence of Michael's alibi during the trial. Prosecutors still have the option to retry, but will certainly have difficulty doing so because of witnesses that are not with us anymore. Dorothy Moxley believes that his family's wealth and powerful connections are the reason why he's free today. If he came from a poor family, she said, this would have been over a long time ago. Others in his family believe he's innocent. There's even a book called Why Michael Skakel Spent Over a Decade in Prison for a Murder He Didn't Commit. I looked it up, and according to my research, he still is a free man. So a fun night, a mischief night, where kids were supposed to be having fun. Some kids are trying to have fun in a different way. And I get it. They were teenagers. But I think that in this case, it kind of shows a lot of what having money and influence and powerful parents or grown-ups around you can do for you. It would, in my opinion, this is an open and shut case. There's a lot of evidence that point to Michael. There's a lot of things that he said with his own mouth. He confessed to different people of doing it. And not only that, but he confessed lying to the police in the beginning. So I don't know why are we kidding right now? If this guy was a normal guy, a hardworking man, if this was a, I don't know, a troubled teenager, like they were troubled teenagers. The Skakels were very troubled teenagers, but they had money. So I mean, you have an excuse, right? You're a troubled teenager because you're suffering because your mom died and your dad isn't an alcoholic. Well, newsflash, that happens in all kinds of families. No matter how much money you have or not, it is part of life. I mean, I feel like society puts people with money and power in a different tier and expect, to be understood more than your normal, John Doe. Like any other typical person. It seems like if their mom died, well, that's the perfect excuse. If the dad was an alcoholic, well, even more in their favor. I mean, they were suffering. But that's not uncommon. And I'm not saying it's okay, and I'm not saying that, it's okay that they had to go through it. I wish they didn't have to. But when you add to the mix unlimited funds of money and unlimited freedom for a teenager, then you have a recipe for disaster, if you ask me. Most teenagers don't have that amount of money, so what do? They just decide to do something that doesn't require as much money. And if they get in trouble with drugs, they don't have enough money to do something, so much damage. I mean, they get in trouble, but when you have the money, when you have the freedom, and when you don't have the capability, or you're so young that you really don't have the power of making the right choice, or your brain is not developed enough to know wrong from right or right from wrong, or your parents are not around, I mean, it makes sense that you will do things that you will regret. But it will never be an excuse to do something like this. And again, when we put this case in a different perspective, depending on their parents' backgrounds and economics and neighborhoods and everything, I think it does make the difference in this case. And it kind of shows you, how messed up we are. That when you have money, some things are excusable, or you have the benefit of the doubt. But when you're not that rich, when you're not somebody's cousin, or nephew, or brother, or friend, then yeah, when there's this many things against you, more than likely you're guilty. And we come back to the lawyers. I mean, the lawyers never said that he was innocent. They were not even fighting for his innocence. And I guess they were, because of course that's. But all I'm saying is that they were trying to get away with technicalities in order to get their client free. And every time I see a lawyer doing that kind of thing, it always makes me think of, some kind of I don't know, devil's deal kind of thing, It's always looking for that loophole to get away from something that it's right, but there's always a way out. And if you're smart enough, and if you have money, enough money, lots of money, and power, and a name, then it will be easier for you. Now, am I saying that this guy is guilty? No, I don't know that. And this is all alleged. But I am trying to put into perspective how, depending on how much money you have, is how much you can get away with stuff that you shouldn't. Now, a family is missing their wonderful daughter, and a family that had the idea of the perfect place where they could raise their family safe got the opposite message. And I can't even think about how they were feeling after this and how they were able to survive after Martha was not with them anymore, and the injustice of hearing and seeing so many unfair things happening because of a last name and because of power. I'm not saying this because it's the Kennedys. I'm saying in general. If you know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, and if they have enough power, if they have enough money, there's always something that somebody can do for you. And it's a terrible thought, because in my opinion, we're training those young people that no matter how wrong the things that they're doing are, there's always a way out. And it shouldn't. It shouldn't be a way out for anybody. Let me know what you think about this case. If you're watching this on YouTube, I would love for you to share your thoughts with me. Do you think that maybe he's innocent? Are you part of the clan that believes that he is innocent? Do you believe that there is any kind of difference depending on how much money or power you have? Or do you think that people with money are just able to afford fancier lawyers? And because of that, they get away with things that maybe they wouldn't otherwise. I'd love to know all that. Another terrible case, another sad story, something that shouldn't have happened. Another Halloween tragedy. And I can assure you that for that family, Halloween was never the same. It's funny because I always think that when I die, I want to die like on a typical, day. I don't want to be around Christmas or my birthday or somebody's in my, family's birthday, or, not on Halloween either. 'Cause I'm kind of getting some dates out of my, I'm kind of bargaining with God and be like, okay, not on Halloween, not on Christmas, not on Thanksgiving. I've experienced loss in some particular dates, and nothing like terrible like this one, but my grandma had a stroke around I think it was the day before, the day after Thanksgiving a couple of years ago, and it ruined Thanksgiving for me. I mean, Thanksgiving it's a good thing, but I always feel sad on Thanksgiving. My grandpa died on my aunt's birthday, and it ruined that birthday forever. I mean, we can never, ever, ever have a normal birthday after my grandpa died. And they were not violent death. My grandpa was sick. So I am kind of a weirdo with people dying on certain dates, but I guess that's part of life. Even though I try to bargain for mine to be on a typical day where nobody cares. Do you feel that way? Or is it me being weird? Anyways, thanks for being there, guys. I truly appreciate your support. You coming and hanging out with me. I love this time that we get to spend together. Even though we talk about some horrible cases, some horrible things, I hope that it makes us reflect on things and see different realities and see some things that maybe are not fair. But try to do something about it, you know? Try to speak up, say something, fight for something. And I'm not saying go and do crazy stuff or steal stuff. No, 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 I'm not saying that. I'm saying that sometimes I feel like we need to be aware of things that are going on. Like this. This is not fair. And it's not fair that people can get away with things just because they're more powerful or rich. I'm going to stop rambling right now. I hope you can't hear the noise too much in the background, but today I'm recording this for the second time in the house, and yeah, it's dark and it's loud. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day or night, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.